Now again, if you asked 100 different programmers to set up a solution for this, you'd probably get 100 different answers of how to do it, but let me show you what I would do. So we need to tackle the solution both from an admin editor client JavaScript angle and from the PHP render callback angle. However, regardless of which problem we solve first, I don't know of a way from client-side JavaScript in the admin editor to access the theme folder URI. So for example, in the admin screen, if you start to edit your index template, in this JavaScript environment, I'm not sure of an easy, elegant way to have WordPress give us the currently installed and active theme URI. So this is what I'm going to do. In our functions.php file, down at the bottom when we're creating our new instance of JSX block for slide, well, let's just give it a third argument. So comma, square brackets, and remember we set this up so that you give it a PHP array of data and then it will be made available from JavaScript. So let's make up a property name. Let's call it, so quotes, I'll make up a name maybe of, how about theme image path? So after the quotes, PHP arrow symbol, and then it would just be get theme file URI, parentheses to call that. Give it a string of text, just slash images slash. Let's give that a save, but the idea now is that in our client-side JavaScript for the editor screen, we can access this value. And WordPress is giving us the HTTP URI towards our theme folder and then the slash images folder. So this will work with any configuration of WordPress. It doesn't matter if WordPress is installed at the root of the domain. It doesn't matter if someone has changed the name of the WP content folder, so on and so forth. Now, before we directly go use this little bit of data, let's acknowledge that really all we need to do now is add on to the end of this. So after the slash, right about here, this would be, bus.jpg or apples.jpg or bread.jpg. So what I would do is back in our index.html template, let's go find the slide instances. So the first slide for me is around line number 24. Here's what I would do. So this first slide, this is what I want to be the bus.jpg, right? I'm just going to completely get rid of the image ID and definitely get rid of the image URL properties. Right, so now it's just an empty pair of curly brackets, and let's make up an attribute name. So we could call it anything, but let's call it maybe theme image, colon, give it a string of text for the value, and just say bus.jpg. Right, because all we need to do to finish the path is just, we're already in this images folder, so just use this file. Let's do the same thing for the other three as well. So about on line number 38, this would be the apples.jpg. So on this slide tag, just get rid of the image ID and the image URL. In the curly brackets, it would just be quotes, theme image, colon, quotes, apples.jpg. And then finally, let's do the same thing for this slide. So get rid of the image ID, get rid of the image URL. In the empty object, it would be quotes, theme image, colon, quotes value is bread.jpg. Cool. Let's give that a save. And now all we need to do is edit the client admin Gutenberg block JavaScript to combine the theme images folder with that little file name value we just set up. So I think this will come full circle right now if you just jump into our blocks folder and opened up slide.js with me. Up at the very top of this file, let's set up a new attribute. So in the attributes object, let's add a brand new attribute. We could name it anything, but we've already chosen a name back in our template, right? We made up a name of theme image. So let's use that here. Theme image, colon, curly brackets. Be sure to end that line with a comma. In the curly brackets, we just need to say type string. Cool. Now let's just write a little bit of code so that on the first render or the first, initial page load, we check to see if this value is empty or not. If it exists, if it's not empty, right? If you've passed in a value from your template file, then we can actually use it. And then we can set things up so that when the user actually uploads their own custom image, then we can just delete or empty or hollow out this value. Let me show you what I have in mind. So in the edit component, we're already using useEffect. Let's set up another useEffect because this one's watching for changes to image ID. I want a new useEffect that's only going to run on the first initial page load. So just right above that useEffect, we can just set up another useEffect. You give it 2 values. For the B value, just give it an empty array, meaning we're not watching for any value in particular for changes. This means only run this function on the initial load. So then instead of the A placeholder, we'd give it a function. In this function, I would just write an if statement. So if parentheses, curly brackets, the condition would be props.attributes.themeImage. So if that evaluates to true, if it's not empty, then let's just set the image URL to sort of combine the values in a way that makes sense. So we'd say props.setAttributes. You give that an object. We would want to set image URL : to now be, and we would construct our own string. So let's use backticks. And now we'd essentially just combine the value that we set up in functions.php. So remember a few moments ago, we set this up. So this is going to be the path that points towards our theme /images/. So we can access that by just saying slide.themeImagePath. So back in our JavaScript, in the backticks, it would be $ curly brackets, and then we'd say slide.themeImagePath, and then still in the backticks, but you could just set up a new expression. So $ curly brackets, we're just sort of squishing 2 dynamic values together into one overall string. But then this would just be props.attributes.themeImage. So all together, this will be the theme images folder, and then bus.jpg or apples.jpg. Cool. Now, before we save this file, let's address what should happen once the user actually does, or I should say if, they actually upload and replace that with their own custom uploaded image. So to take care of that, in the original useEffect that we already set up in a previous lesson, we're watching for changes to image ID. So if that changes, that means the user uploaded their own file. And we are already setting, props.setAttributes and setting the image URL. So in this object, I would just empty out theme image, right? In other words, once the user uploads their own image, we no longer want to pay attention to or acknowledge this hard-coded, theme image bread.jpg. So what I would do in this props.setAttributes, maybe right before image URL, we can just say also change theme image : to just be an empty string of text, comma. Let's give this a save and test it out. So back in the full site editor screen, I'll refresh the page. Whoops, I just remembered we need to have our npm run start task up and running in the command line. Cool, so with that running, let's refresh. If we scroll down to the slideshow, perfect. There are the 3 images that we actually want, so they're working. Now, if the user tries to customize that, so if I click on this first one, in the right-hand sidebar, click Choose Image. If I choose this building, click Select. Cool, that works. And if I click Save, and now refresh just to prove that it's saving into the database and still actually being used instead of the hard-coded, bus.jpg, cool, it is. So now we just need to adjust our PHP render callback function a tiny bit so that the actual public output also works, right? Because at the moment, if we refresh the actual front end of our website, well, yes, we do indeed see that image I just uploaded. However, what about when someone first enables this theme? So let me explain what I mean. If the user reverts back to the initial template that the theme ships with, so let me do that really quick. If I go into templates, might have to refresh, but on index, just revert or clear any user customizations. Okay, so we refresh. Notice that first slide on the actual PHP render callback, it's using the fallback image instead of bus.jpg. So to fix this, all we need to do is in the Our Blocks folder, jump into slide.php, and up at the very top in this PHP block, Let's just write one more if statement. So if parentheses, curly brackets. For the condition, I would just say if $attributes, square brackets, look for theme image. So if that exists, if it's not empty, then let's just set image URL to actually use that hard-coded value, of apples.jpg or bus.jpg. Otherwise, if that's not true, this just will be ignored completely. So in this if statement, for the curly brackets, I would just say $attributes, look in the array for image URL, set that to equal, and then just get theme file URI, semicolon, give that a value of quotes /images/, and then after the quotes, I would concatenate on, so a period, $attributes, look inside the array for theme image. Let's give that a save. And now, with our theme using its total default values that shipped from the actual text file on the hard drive, if we refresh, perfect. It knows to use that bus.jpg value, and that's true for all 3 slides. But the moment a user actually customizes that, so we can go back into index, and if I change the bread slide to instead be this cat, click save, we can go check the PHP version. Go to the 3rd slide. Perfect. So big picture, what does this mean? It means that our index.html template file is good to go. You could ship out this theme, you could distribute this theme, and this code will make sense for any WordPress installation. So when the user first installs and enables your theme, it will work and make sense, but it's also a great home base that they can always revert back to. That's going to bring this lesson to a close, and even though that was a lot of work just for the one homepage template, trust me, all of the other templates, for individual blog posts, individual page, archives, so on and so forth, those don't require any sort of custom accommodations like we set up in this video, so those are all going to go very quickly. I think we can finish them in just a video or 2. In other words, we're very close to finishing this new block theme together. Let's keep our momentum rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.